Hi, guys. I'm Jamila Brown, the host of Ethically Questionable, the podcast where we try to figure out how we can keep having everything we want in our lives without fucking up the planet. And I am so excited because today is our first episode. Woot woot. But because it's our first episode, guys, today is going to be a little bit different than our normal flow, our normal format where we have cool guests coming in. Some of them are filmed in our Polestar, who are our sponsors of the series, which is really exciting. But today it's just going to be you and me, one-on-one, just so we can get some, some alone time. No, not alone time, but just so we can sort of set the scene for what this entire podcast and project is about, right? I really want to level set with you guys and just tell you a bit about like who I am and what the fuck we're all doing here. So look, I've been wanting to do this podcast for years because for years I have been working at the intersection of sustainability, social impact, and culture. First, in my role as head of these programs globally for Soho House, and now as founder of my own impact agency, Lightwork, where we work with all sorts of brands internationally on their strategy, partnerships, and storytelling when it comes to social impact and sustainability. And so I've been spending all of my time for, years and years and years talking to and meeting with and arguing with sometimes and collaborating with some of the most incredible people and innovators out there who are all creating all these amazing things that are going to help make our lives better for people, better for planet, but also better for ourselves like individually, right? And that's such a stark contrast to when I then kind of step out of my work world and come and hang out with like my friends, or I scroll on Instagram or whatever, and all I'm kind of faced with is like doom and gloom around these conversations, like, it's so bad, we're all gonna die, there's nothing we can do, et cetera, et cetera. And it's just not reality, actually, that version of, or that narrative. So I really wanted to create this podcast to help inspire you all, shed some light on all the great shit that's out there, and really sort of shift us away from this, like, it's all bad, because it ain't all bad. There's a lot of good as well. So we're going to spend today just going through some of the sort of common things that I hear from people, common misconceptions about sustainability, better living, achieving the good life, etc. And hopefully you guys can take these sort of bullet points or these thought starters and use them to really you know, have the good life, but also use them to like sort of think about the shit that we talk about during the rest of the podcast series. So without further ado, let's get into it. Okay, so point one is that sustainability is only climate change, and climate change is like dry and boring or highly scientific and like very intangible for us in our day-to-day lives. But actually, sustainability is way beyond just climate change. There's three pillars to sustainability, right? There's the environmental side, which we all kind of immediately think about. There's the social side, which we think about maybe a little bit less. And then there's the economic side as well, right? Essentially, for us to be having a more sustainable society, so one that like doesn't overly extract and like keeps the balance for generations to come, all three of these things need to be in balance. And the big issue right now is that obviously they aren't. Like a perfect example of how this all intersects, right? The top 10% of the wealthiest people on the planet, and that includes us guys living in the West, create 50% of the global carbon emissions. So if you think about like the sort of like vector of this, right? Like socially, we're fucking over 50% of the planet. Economically, we're fucking over 50% of the planet. Environmentally, we're fucking over the whole planet. So look, when you're thinking about sustainability or why you should be living a more sustainable lifestyle, it's not just the emissions side. It's the like health, wealth, and like dignity of our fellow man. It's the respect for nature and longevity and plants and clean water and fresh air and all those things that are really important. And it's also the upholding of like our economic system so that we can live in a society that is continuing to innovate and like seek progress and drive change in a positive way. Okay, misconception number two is one that I hear a lot, right? It's this whole guilt thing that we have as individuals around the sort of sustainability situation that we are currently in, and that it is like our fault and our individual choices that are making such a huge negative impact. There's a really I don't know if it's funny, but there's a really well-known story that I can use as an example for this, right? The reason why most people feel this way isn't necessarily because it's true, but it's because there's a whole like industrial complex that are like funneling this narrative into your psyche. There's a super famous story from 2004 about BP, British Petroleum, who at one point were like rebranding to Beyond Petroleum, but whatever. I think they dropped that. But, anyways, in the midst of their like big, huge oil spill, they were also running this like mega £100 million campaign with some big, creative agency to redirect everyone's attention from the sort of like environmental like crimes they were committing and onto our own selves. They ran the like, what's your carbon footprint campaign, right? And I think a lot of people, if they don't remember that from 2004, they definitely have grown up or thought about over the last 20 years, this idea of like your personal carbon footprint. Imagine the gaslighting, guys, that it takes for a company who is like actively fucking extracting fossil fuels, burning up the fucking ozone layer or whatever, for them to then look at you and be like, what are you doing? How much have you contributed to this problem? Like, please be for real. And this isn't something that is unique to, the oil industry or the fossil fuel industry. Like, we've seen this with big tobacco over the years. We're now seeing it with big tech, right? Like, think about, are you guys hearing the story, right? Like, are you using AI? Like, how dare you put in 20 prompts today because, you've killed a fish. But Sam Altman is like fucking like mowing down the rainforest to build these data centers. Like, I think we all need to like just take a step back, just a tiny step back, though, from the sort of like personal responsibility narrative and recognize that the much larger forces who have much more control over the way that these systems work are the ones that we need to be holding their feet to the fire. And of course, in our day-to-day choices, we need to be more intentional about not being overly wasteful or using up extra resources when we don't need to. Of course, we have a role to play in this as well. Like, we're not totally off the hook here. But the idea that it is like completely my own fault because like I need to go pick up my kids from school and I had to drive my car to go do that today is like absolutely fucking ridiculous. Misconception number 3. To be more sustainable, you have to give up everything that you have worked so hard for. This one, I think, is what maybe stops a lot of people from thinking a bit more about how to have a more sustainable lifestyle, right? They find it super overwhelming or super sacrificial. And I get it, right? Like, I'm a millennial. I was born in California in the 90s. I was told, if you work hard, you can have nice things. And I love having nice things, okay? I like going on holiday. I like, a cute bag. I like going out to eat. Like, these are all things that I don't want to give up in my life. And I don't think that anybody in the sustainability world really wants you to give all of those things up either, because then we're back to the whole economy piece, grinding it all to a halt, where, I don't know, living in the forest, I don't know, but that's not at all what sustainability is about. The idea that you have to give up things just isn't true. What sustainability really is about intentionality and making better choices. And again, I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this already, but most of the like innovation that we need is out there or on the way. So it's just about being more intentional about finding those solutions and leaning in, integrating them into your lifestyle and making choices that you can really feel good about and being educated as a consumer. Misconception number 4. If you are not a like truly like perfectly sustainable person, you really have no leg to stand on and therefore shouldn't really be saying much to anybody about it. This one drives me up the fucking wall, okay? I'm going to give you a really great example. I know this incredible CEO of an entertainment agency, and this agency is a B Corp, right? They've got their B Corp status, which means they've, achieved this certain level of reportability when it comes to how they're using their business to do better for people and better for planet. And this CEO is super happy to talk about all the ways that they are working hard for people, but is like deathly scared to talk about what they're doing on the environmental side. And when I asked them about it, I was, a bit saddened, disheartened by their response, right? He said to me, look, because of the nature of the business that I'm in, I fly to LA 10 times a year. And I'm just worried that the second that I say anything about like, our environmental efforts or my views on environmentalism, I'm just going to get absolutely raked over the coals. And that made me so, so fucking sad, actually, because here is a business, right, that is doing their absolute best to run their operation in a way that is positive for people and doing less harm to the planet. And yet, instead of like shouting that and trying to normalize that conversation, he's hiding from it. And I said to him, look, if you don't take these flights to LA 10 times a year, your business will cease to exist. And then we will have no B Corp entertainment agencies. We'll have nobody in this space thinking about it. So I think it's really important that you don't hide away from these things. Furthermore, it is not your fault that, oh, I hate to keep calling out on the British places. I'll say airlines in general, which is true actually, have not adopted sustainable aviation fuel. Like, sure, it's more expensive, but like, how much is a fucking flight these days, right? Like, very expensive. So get on with it, right? But what I said to him is like, look, use your voice, use your position. If you are flying a lot, if you are a CEO of this like great business, like say to your airline of choice, I really want to see some sustainable aviation fuel because you're making it harder for me to live the way that I want. And as a consumer, you have that power. Like you can demand more. The other side of that is like, you also don't have to be this like barefoot, tree hugging, like earth goddess to think about or care about sustainability or care about people and planet, right? I think for so many people, I mean, again, myself included, there's this idea that if you're not like totally perfect or, totally like fully invested, like if you're not Greta Thunberg, then shut the fuck up because you're part of the problem. And that is also not true, right? I think that this view of these extremes of like you're either all in or you're nothing is actually probably one of the major issues in our society at the moment. We're too polarized, it's super divisive, but we need to think more about the middle ground. Like I live my life in a very sustainable way, but you're not ever going to catch me outside camping. Like I didn't even stay at the Bell tents at Soho Farmhouse when they had them. I was in the cabin, So you can love the planet, love people, love your lifestyle, and live and exist in this middle ground. You don't have to be like fully in or fully not, right? No shade and no shame. Okay, and then point number 5 is that the system is too big and too overwhelming to change, and nothing that we do will really matter anyways. And this is just absolutely fucking crazy to me because we've seen systems change throughout history nonstop, right? There's also all the solutions already out there. It's just about us adopting them. And ultimately, we the people really do have the power here. I don't want to go into too much of a cliche, but you know, our voices have power. Our wallets have power. The more that we demand better from businesses or better from governments, the more that they have to answer those demands, right? Just imagine we all stopped giving our money to bad businesses. They'd be gone. They'd be fucking out of here. It'd be over for them. And then we'd be living in a planet where we have businesses that respect nature, respect people, respect resources. I mean, imagine how fantastic that would be, right? But what that takes, and also other businesses who want to win your money and your attention would have to get in line, right? They'd have to act better. So for us, it's really important to demand more. We can change the system. The more that we're talking about it, the more that it becomes mainstream conversation, the more our governments will affect positive policy change, the more businesses have to adhere. Like it's just up to us to like demand more. So let's do it. Okay, guys, actually, I know I said that was my last point, but I have one more. It's that sustainability is too expensive. That is actually crazy. In many cases, especially on the business side, the more sustainable choice will either save you money up front or save you money in the long run. And in your own home, making the more sustainable choices are also going to have that same effect on you, right? Like we've seen this time and time again with people getting solar panels or heat pumps or whatever. Not only are their energy bills going down, they're selling energy back into the grid. They're making money off of this stuff. Vinted, another perfect example. Rather than trashing your old stuff, putting it back into the circular economy is generating income for yourself. There are hundreds of examples where the sustainable choice is much less expensive when you're thinking either short term or long term. So that is one that, I don't understand why people think that, but we're going to work on it. We're going to work on it, guys. So there we have it, guys. That is what Ethically Questionable is going to be all about. And I really hope that you guys love it and find this show useful. I have poured my heart and my soul and my brain and my contact book into this to create something that is really, I hope, useful for you all, Having the good life where, you've got everything you want in life and you're doing good for people and you're doing good for planet is so achievable. It's so achievable. It just takes us, having a little think through, finding the solutions, connecting the dots, etc., to shift all those misconceptions out of here and build, this dream life that we all really want. So like and subscribe to the show, Ethically Questionable. It's going to be available on all platforms, and we're going to come to you every week. It won't be me talking as much anymore, luckily for you guys. I've got, like I said, incredible guests coming each week who are going to help us think through, all of our favorite things in life, from dating to dining out to building wealth to going shopping to going on holiday, anything that you guys want to chat about. We can help you figure out a way to do it better for people, better for planet. So follow the show, like the show, subscribe to the show, message me, DM me, tell me what you guys want to hear more about, and we're going to work really hard to deliver it for you and help you live the good life. Until next time, I'll see you guys then. Thanks again for tuning into this week's episode of Ethically Questionable. For more info, thoughts, ideas, conversation starters, you can follow me, your host Jamila, at Jamila Faye. Ethically Questionable is electrified by Polestar, the Swedish electric performance brand created to accelerate the shift to zero tailpipe emissions. Their approach to transparency means every car they sell has a carbon impact report so you can drive with